Tristan Matthews, a self-made millionaire, built his empire from scratch. He has everything others crave: wealth, power, and good looks. Tristan's success is built on intelligence, determination, and sometimes coldness and toughness in business. With million-dollar contracts and continued success, he is respected and admired by everyone, and his life looks like a perfect picture. However, Tristan's personal life is completely different from that glamorous appearance. Emma, Tristan's wife, is a gentle, deep, and family-loving woman. She used to be a literature teacher, but gave up her career to focus on taking care of her family and waiting for their first child. Emma has always been the person behind Tristan's success, supporting him through all the ups and downs of his career. They once had a passionate love, overcoming all obstacles to build a life together. Emma carries the dream of a warm home where their child can grow up in complete love. However, Emma's dreams are increasingly becoming distant as Tristan becomes busy with work. To maintain the company's development, he often travels on business, works late, and gradually has no time for family. Dinners are missing Tristan, and happy conversations between the couple are now just silence. Invisible distances are formed, growing larger and larger, making Emma feel abandoned in a seemingly perfect marriage. Emma is pregnant with her first child, a little angel that both of them have been waiting for. But that joy is increasingly obscured by Tristan's absence. She feels lost and lonely in the large house they built together. Emma tries to contact her husband, tries to make him understand that the family needs him, but nothing seems to change. Tristan, with the pressure from work and the desire to bring good things to the future of his family, does not realize that he is gradually losing the most important thing: love and connection with his wife. One day, Emma decides she can't keep quiet anymore. She plans to meet Tristan at a luxurious restaurant where they used to have good memories. She hopes to find something from the past, and above all, to be able to talk frankly with her husband about the future of their family. Emma has carefully prepared for that evening, trying to stay positive and looking forward to an opportunity to mend the relationship. The sky that evening was gray and gloomy, as if reflecting Emma's uneasy mood. She entered the restaurant, her heart full of hope for a sincere conversation with Tristan, the man she loved and trusted. The soft yellow lights inside the restaurant exuded warmth and romance. The murmuring laughter around created a friendly atmosphere. But for Emma, it was all just a facade for a cruel truth about to be revealed. Emma walked past the tables, her eyes searching for Tristan in the crowd. Then she saw him. Sitting in a hidden corner, Tristan was chatting with a strange woman. Julia, that woman, possessed a sharp and confident beauty. She wore a seductive black dress, her hair perfectly curled. Tristan's eyes looked at her with attention and care that Emma had not felt in a long time. A missed beat. Emma's heart seemed to stop for a moment, then beat faster. Not with joy, but with pain and panic rising. She slowed down, her legs heavy as lead. A coldness filled her heart as she realized the meaning of the scene before her. As she got closer, Emma could clearly hear Julia's chuckle, followed by Tristan's voice, gentle, intimate. A half-smile appeared on his face as he joked with Julia, as if the whole world was just the two of them. Tristan, who had promised to love and protect her, was now infatuated with someone else, right in front of her eyes. Emma stopped. She could feel the anger rising, then the hurt engulfing her. She took a deep breath, then continued walking. Tristan looked up and was slightly surprised to see Emma, but he immediately gave a faint smile, as if he had done nothing wrong. "Emma, you're here," Tristan said, but there was no surprise or remorse in his voice. He did not take his hand away from Julia's hand, which was resting on the table. Emma couldn't believe what she was seeing and hearing. She bit her lip, trying to keep calm. "What are you doing, Tristan? With her?" Julia chuckled, her eyes looking at Emma sarcastically. She leaned on Tristan as if to affirm the intimacy between them. Tristan still kept a forced smile, without any remorse. "Emma, this is Julia, a new executive at my company. I thought you knew. We're just discussing work," Tristan said, but his insincere tone made Emma feel sick. Emma looked at Tristan, then at Julia. Julia's eyes were challenging. triumphant. Emma felt her chest tighten, the pain welling up, choking her. She realized that Tristan wasn't just working. This was clearer than any explanation. Just work? With this kind of intimacy, Tristan? Emma asked, her voice trembling with anger and hurt. Tristan shrugged, his face nonchalant. You're misunderstanding, Emma. I think you should calm down. Emma took a deep breath, feeling like everything around her was collapsing. She tried to find something in Tristan's eyes. Remorse, love for her. But it was all empty. Tristan was no longer the man she had loved. She turned away, unable to stand there for another second. Emma, don't make a scene. You're just making things worse, Tristan said coldly, his voice devoid of patience. Julia sat next to him, a smirk still plastered on her lips. As if she were the victor, Emma didn't answer. She felt humiliation wash over her heart crushed by the blatant betrayal of the one she had trusted. Unable to bear it any longer, she turned and walked away, tears welling up in her eyes. She ran out of the restaurant, while the sound of laughter from inside still echoed behind her, like knives piercing her heart. The rain started to fall, as if heaven and earth were crying with her. Raindrops mixed with tears on her cheeks. Emma ran down the street, not knowing where she was going, only knowing that she needed to get away from here as quickly as possible. Humiliation and pain weighed heavily on her shoulders, each step she took carrying 1,000 bleeding wounds. Emma felt the cold air seeping into her skin, raindrops hitting her face. Before her eyes were the sparkling lights of cars, couples hand in hand taking shelter from the rain under the eaves, all too strange and luxurious for her at the moment. She felt lonely, lost, and abandoned. She stopped under a bridge, her legs exhausted, unable to take another step. Leaning against the wall, Emma sobbed. The pain that had been building up inside her burst out. Old memories with Tristan suddenly flooded back. Happy moments, sweet promises, dreams of a complete family. Now, all that remained was rubble. Emma didn't know what to do, where to go. But there was one thing she knew for sure. She couldn't go back to Tristan, who had betrayed her so cruelly. She couldn't go back to her old life, where she had to pretend everything was okay while her heart was broken. She put her hand on her stomach, where their child was growing. A small creature who knew nothing of the pain and betrayal of adults. Emma wiped her tears, looking towards the dark horizon. For the sake of the child in her womb, she had to be stronger, had to find a way to move on, no matter how bleak the road ahead. The rain was still falling, the murmuring of the raindrops like a sad song. Emma closed her eyes, letting the rain wash away the pain in her heart, but she knew it wouldn't be easy to forget. Tonight, she had lost a part of herself, but she also realized that she didn't need Tristan to go on living. Emma's life from this moment on would never be the same. She had lost love, but she had not lost her pride and courage. In the cold rain, Emma decided on one thing. She would start over, no matter how difficult it was. She would protect the child in her womb. She would build a new life, a life without Tristan. Emma sat in the silent room, the pale yellow light shining through the window, illuminating the familiar objects she was packing into her suitcase. The only sound that could be heard was her heavy sighs. The beautiful days when they first came together were now a distant past. Every corner where she once found love and companionship now held only scars and deep wounds. Emma had known about Julia for a long time. She wasn't a fool. She wasn't someone who didn't notice the unusual things in the relationship. Tristan had begun to change, from the late nights, the hushed phone calls, the flimsy excuses. Emma knew, she knew it all. She knew about Julia, when that woman was still a colleague, and then became a constant threat between them. Emma had been silent, had turned a blind eye to the truth, had tried to deceive herself that everything would be all right. But that meeting at the restaurant, the image of Tristan and Julia laughing together, was the last straw. Emma could no longer pretend not to see, could no longer continue to be silent and turn a blind eye to the painful truth. She realized that it was time to leave. Since deciding to leave, Emma had prepared herself mentally for this moment. She packed her things slowly and carefully. every memento, every object. Each was filled with memories. The beautiful memories that she thought would never fade now remained only as a bitter residue. Emma felt both heartbroken and relieved, a burden lifted from her chest. Tristan was probably sure that Emma would never leave, because she was always the one who was patient, enduring, and loved him unconditionally. He believed that she would forgive him as she had done before, but Emma knew that this time something had broken. It wasn't just the pain of betrayal, but the realization that she had lost herself in this love. She couldn't continue to sacrifice herself, couldn't continue to live with someone who could trample on her, betray her without an apology. She carried the last of her luggage to the car alone. In the late night, the sound of the closing door sounded like something more than just abandonment, but also liberation. Emma sat in the car, looking towards the house they had built together. But she could no longer recognize her own reflection in it. All dreams and hopes had shattered, like pieces of glass that could not be put back together. She didn't know where the future would lead. It was a hazy and unclear future, but Emma knew that she needed to be free. She no longer wanted to live in anxiety, fear, and sadness. She would find herself again, would find what she had lost in this marriage. Emma didn't know yet that inside her body was a small life growing. Tristan's child was there, carrying new life and hope for the future. Emma didn't know, and that would change abruptly when she found out. But for now, she needed to be free, needed to leave a love that had no way out. Meanwhile, Tristan continued his life, accompanying Julia on long evenings at the office. But somewhere in his heart, a loneliness still lingered, and each new relationship could not erase the shadow of Emma, the woman who had left and taken with her a part of his heart that could not be filled. 3 years passed. Tristan continued to pursue his career and maintain a hesitant, seductive, and volatile relationship with Julia. While Tristan hesitated in his love affair with Julia, the late-night phone calls, the long evenings in nameless beds, he thought he had found a life of his own. Julia, with the nobility and boldness of a powerful woman, seemed to have brought him a life contrary to the family responsibilities that had once been a part of his life. Meanwhile, Emma had started a completely new life. After leaving Tristan, Emma returned to the arms of her family to seek help and at the same time take care of herself. Her family has always been by her side, giving Emma time to care for little Princess Lily and at the same time invest time in herself. Emma, already beautiful, now became more attractive and youthful than ever. She started taking care of her health, joining yoga classes and cycling with friends. Her eyes became bright, and her gaze was no longer full of pain as before, but the strength of a woman who had overcome challenges. However, Emma still couldn't help but worry about Lily's health, especially when the little girl was often tired and short of breath. One night, while Tristan and Julia were enjoying a lavish dinner at a fancy restaurant, Tristan received an unexpected phone call. The ringing broke the cozy atmosphere, and Julia frowned as Tristan pulled his phone out of his jacket pocket. He saw a strange number, but decided to answer it anyway. On the other end of the line, the voice of Dr. Martinez from Boston Hospital rang out, serious and urgent. "Is this Mr. Tristan Matthews? This is Dr. Martinez from Boston Hospital. I'm calling to inform you of some very important information regarding your daughter Lily with Ms. Emma. She has a congenital heart condition and needs surgery immediately." Tristan felt the world around him collapse. "My daughter?" he exclaimed, his eyes wide, unable to believe what he had just heard. Julia sat opposite him, looking at him in bewilderment, not understanding what was going on. Dr. Martinez continued, "Yes, she needs your help right now. The situation is very serious and cannot be delayed any longer." Tristan was completely speechless. The doctor's words were like daggers piercing the perfect shell he had built for himself over the past 3 years. He had a daughter, and she was fighting for her life. Fear, worry, and guilt flooded him. He didn't know what to do, but he knew he couldn't sit still here at this lavish party while his daughter needed him. I grope around for ice cream in the freezer. Bernice's bag of old fashions brought it up to me." He mumbled an apology to Julia, quickly got up, and without a moment's hesitation left the restaurant. Julia called after him, but Tristan didn't bother to turn around. In his mind was only the image of a little girl he had never met, but had become everything to him. His daughter, Lily. Tristan rushed out into the street, his mind in turmoil with a series of thoughts. Why had Emma never told him? Why did she keep their child a secret? But then he blamed himself. He had betrayed her, abandoned her when she needed him most. He had chosen a secret love affair with Julia instead of his responsibilities as a husband and father. For the past 3 years, he had lived under the illusion that he was happy, but now he realized it was just an escape from reality. He had run away from his family, from Emma and their child. And now that reality hit him in the face, leaving him no choice but to confront and correct his mistakes. Tristan decided to go to Boston immediately. He booked the earliest flight he could find, with only one wish in his heart, to see his daughter and do everything he could to save her. He knew that the past could not be changed, but he still had the present and the future to redeem himself. Arriving in Boston, Tristan felt tense and anxious. He didn't know how Emma would react when she saw him. Would she forgive him or would she slam the door in his face? But that didn't matter to him right now. The only thing that mattered was Lily, the daughter he had never met, but loved infinitely. As he stepped into the hospital, his heart pounded and his throat tightened. He had never felt so small and useless. He had only one thing to pray for, that he was on time, that he still had a chance to fix everything. Tristan stood in front of the door to the hospital room, preparing to face the past and perhaps his last chance to remake his life. Tristan sat in the car, looking at the sign Boston Hospital, while his heart pounded. His mind was filled with a jumble of thoughts. Hurt, regret, mixed with doubt. Do I really have a child? He wondered. His mind tried to find a reason to doubt, but it was gradually subdued by the painful reality. Emma had to face everything alone. Shaking off the train of thought, Tristan opened the car door and walked quickly into the hospital. When he arrived at the hospital room, his heart felt squeezed as he saw Emma sitting on a chair, tears still wet on her cheeks, her pale face and stiff features making Tristan ache. By the hospital bed, a little girl was lying still, Lily, with golden hair and blue eyes just like him. Tristan's heart suddenly throbbed with a feeling he couldn't describe. A magical connection, an intense love for the little girl he had never known. He walked slowly towards Lily, gazing at her innocent and peacefully sleeping face. Every feeling in him was a mix of bewilderment, questioning, acknowledgement, and a silent pain. "You've grown so much," he whispered, looking at her tiny hands. A suppressed sob behind him made Tristan turn around. Emma was sitting in the corner of the room, trying to maintain a cold expression, but the pain was evident in her deep eyes. Tristan approached her, facing what he had caused. "Thank you for coming to save our child. She needs you right now, but don't you dare touch her, Tristan," Emma said, her voice cold, making the pain sting in Tristan. Her eyes were full of pain and anger. Tristan understood that he had lost the chance to be loved and trusted by her, but he also knew he couldn't accept that. "Emma, I know I was wrong. I caused you pain, and I don't beg you to forgive me. I only beg for our child, Lily, to have a chance. She has been through more than you can imagine." Emma started to tremble, her chin held high, but her eyes filled with tears. "Do you think that just by coming and saying a few apologies, you can fix everything? You left me, left our child, when I needed you most, Tristan." Tristan felt the words like knives stabbing into his heart. He had no rebuttal, no way to change the past. But he still came closer, squatting down in front of Emma. "I don't expect forgiveness. I also know I have lost the chance to be by your side. But Lily, she needs a father and a mother. For her sake, please be fair to me. I will take care of her, and I will let her know that she is loved by both her parents." Emma looked at him, the anger in her eyes gradually turning into a bottomless sadness. She didn't answer, but started crying uncontrollably. Tristan's heart tightened. He could only gently approach, placing his hand on her shoulder as if to reassure her. "I won't force you to forgive me right now, Emma. I just ask you for a chance, to make amends for what I have caused, a chance for our child." Emma paused in her sobs. Finally, she uttered a faint sentence. We'll see. Poor Tristan, that was a glimmer of hope, a faint light, but enough for him to start a new chapter, to atone for his mistakes, and to find a way for his family, Emma and Lily. Emma sat on the stiff chair in the hospital waiting room, her eyes gazing out the glass window where the dim afternoon light was beginning to fade. Tristan sat opposite her, silent, his heart heavy with things that needed to be said. Finally, it was Emma who broke the heavy silence. "You have hurt me so much, Tristan. What happened not only broke my trust, but also made me feel like I lost everything we once had," Emma said, her voice not angry, but only tired and pained. Tristan bowed his head, his hands clenched tightly to keep himself calm. "I know," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "I can't excuse what I did. I don't expect you to forgive me, Emma. But I want to right my wrongs. At least, I want to do the right thing for Lily. She needs both of us." Emma sighed, turning to look at her daughter through the separating glass. Lily was sleeping, her small face peaceful to the point of heartbreak. But she knew that behind that peace was a weak heart that needed to be healed, and she couldn't do this alone. "The treatment will be very expensive," Emma said, her eyes still fixed on her daughter. "I can't afford it. And Lily, she doesn't have much time left." Her voice choked, her throat tightening with worry and love for her child. Tristan looked into Emma's eyes, seeing clearly the struggle and pain she was enduring. His heart ached, and he knew that he couldn't let the past divide them forever. He had to do something, not just for himself, but for their daughter. "Emma, I will pay all the costs for the surgery. I can sell the company, do anything to get enough money to treat her," Tristan said, his voice full of determination. "I'm not asking you to accept me back. I just want to make sure that Lily has a chance to live, to grow up like a normal child." Emma turned to look at Tristan, her eyes red. "Do you think I can easily accept your help?" she asked, her voice full of hesitation and conflict. "After all that has happened, how can I trust you again? You betrayed me, left me and our child to fend for ourselves." Bah. Tristan took Emma's hand, his eyes looking straight into hers, no longer cold, but replaced with sincerity and deep remorse. "I understand. I don't expect you to believe me right away. But think about Lily. She needs us to work together. She needs both a father and a mother by her side to get through this difficult time. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm willing to do anything for Lily to live." Emma silently looked at Tristan for a long time. His words were not an excuse, but a heavy confession. She felt the sincerity in each of his words, and her inner struggle became more and more pronounced. She knew Lily needed both a father and a mother in these important moments. Although her heart still had many wounds, her love for her daughter was greater than all. "You won't abandon her again, will you?" Emma asked, her eyes lit with hope, but also full of doubt. Tristan looked deep into her eyes, feeling as if all their past, pain and love were converging in this gaze. "I swear, Emma, I will never abandon her again. I will always be here, whether you need me or not. I will not repeat the mistakes of the past." Emma closed her eyes, exhaling a long breath. She knew that she couldn't do it all alone, no matter how difficult it was, no matter if her heart couldn't completely forgive him yet. She needed Tristan's help to save their daughter. "Okay," she said, her voice weak but full of determination. "We'll do this together, for Lily. But don't think it will be easy, Tristan. I can't forget what you did. But for Lily, I'm willing to give you a chance." Tristan nodded, his heart overflowing with gratitude. He understood that this didn't mean Emma had forgiven him, but it was a first step. He knew there would be many difficulties ahead. But as long as there was a chance, he would fight to the end. The two of them sat in silence, but it was no longer a heavy silence. This was a silence of determination, of hope, and of responsibility. They knew that from here, their journey would be full of thorns, but for Lily, they would be willing to face it all. And on the other side of the glass, Lily was still sleeping peacefully, as if she knew that she was not alone in this fight. As Tristan and Emma stayed at the hospital together, secrets from Tristan's past began to unravel. Julia appeared, bringing with her the tension and schemes that Tristan had tried to hide for so long. Emma had no idea that the relationship between Tristan and Julia was far more complicated than she had ever imagined. Julia had not only been Tristan's lover, but also the one who had quietly manipulated his life and work. Tristan stood facing Julia in the hospital hallway, and Emma watched from afar, clearly sensing the extreme tension between the two. Julia, with cold eyes, tried to tell Tristan that he had no right to give up everything to return to Emma and Lily. She emphasized that everything he had now was thanks to her efforts, and if he didn't obey, she would do everything to destroy him. Emma, with pain and anger, walked towards them and confronted Tristan. She asked him directly about what was going on and why Julia had the right to coerce him like that. Tristan knew that this was not the time to hide anymore. He looked into Emma's eyes, and he decided to tell her everything. Julia has been controlling me, Emma. She used wicked tricks to manipulate the company, even turning me into a puppet. I had to pretend to support Julia, to do what she wanted, just to save the company, to protect the hundreds of workers who depend on it. I know it hurt you, and I'm sorry. Emma looked at Tristan, shock evident in her eyes. His words were a great shock to her. She couldn't believe that Julia had manipulated Tristan's life to such an extent. But what hurt Emma even more was the fact that Tristan had actually had feelings for Julia during that time. Tristan bowed his head, his voice low but full of remorse. I had feelings for Julia, and that was my fault. But during that time, I never forgot you, Emma. You always had a special place in my heart. I know I hurt you, and no apology is enough to make up for it. But when I knew about Lily, when I saw her, I understood that there are things in this life that cannot be lost, and our family is one of them. Julia let out a cold laugh, trying to maintain control. Tristan, do you think you can go back and live a normal life? You owe me everything. Without me, you're nothing. Melanie swallowed hard and tried to find the words to explain. Maybe I'll just travel on, have a peaceful life, but once I'm released, we have something to work for. Tristan lifted his head, his eyes resolute. No, Julia. I owed you, but I don't owe you my future or Lily's life. I won't let you manipulate my life anymore. I'm willing to give up everything to protect my daughter and the one I truly love. Emma stood there, her heart heavy. She didn't know if she could forgive Tristan, but she knew he had changed. She looked at Tristan and Julia, two people standing at a crossroads in their lives. Julia looked at Tristan for a long moment, then turned and walked away, leaving Tristan and Emma facing each other. Tristan walked closer to Emma, his voice choked with emotion. I know I've done so much wrong, but I will fight to redeem myself, whether you accept me or not. I just want a chance to be with our daughter, to make up for what I missed. Emma looked at him, tears falling down her cheeks. She didn't answer, but she didn't turn away. It was a small glimmer of hope, but enough for Tristan to keep fighting for his family. He knew the road ahead would not be easy, but he was ready to face any challenge to protect Emma and Lily. Tristan never thought that one day he would be willing to give up everything for something he had lost long ago. Deep down, he always longed to have a child, a real family, where he could experience unconditional love and deep connection. The fact that he had a child, a beautiful little girl named Lily, awakened in him a new meaning in life. It was no longer about financial achievements, admiration, or power. It was the love of a father. And for the first time, Tristan felt he had to do everything to protect, care, or Lily and give her the best. He decided to give up everything he had built in his career. It was not an easy decision. Tristan had spent his whole life fighting to be on top, to achieve outstanding success. The company he built from scratch, the relationships he painstakingly built, all felt like a part of him. But now, he realized that nothing was more important than family. No success would be meaningful if he couldn't fulfill his role as a father. Tristan sat alone in his office, the dim light illuminating the desk where he was writing his resignation letter. This time, it wasn't project documents or business plans. It was his renunciation of an entire empire and a commitment to himself to put family first. People might not understand, But Tristan knew what he was doing. Resigning as CEO, donating all his shares to fund Emma's school and Lily's treatment. It was the only way for him to atone for his past mistakes. When he announced his decision to his colleagues, Tristan received strong opposition. They didn't understand why a powerful man with a bright future like him could give it all up for an emotional decision. The other executives, the co-founders who had been with him from the early days, couldn't believe that Tristan had decided to leave. Some even tried to persuade him, promising to help him balance both work and family, but Tristan just shook his head. "No one can replace me as the father of my daughter," he said, his voice calm but firm. He understood what he had lost, and also understood that he had no more time to waste. Lily needed him, and Emma needed his support. Everything he had valued in the past was now less important than a moment by his daughter's side. In a final meeting with the shareholders, Tristan clearly presented his decision. It was not a collapse, but a handover, he said. He confidently handed over the company to the people he had worked with and built over the years. The skeptical eyes did not make Tristan waver. He knew that his life was about to turn a new page, a page where he could live true to his feelings and his heart. After the meeting, Tristan felt relieved, as if a huge burden had just been lifted from his shoulders. He walked out of the company building, looked up at the sky, and for the first time in years, he felt free. No more work pressure. No more heavy responsibilities weighing on his shoulders. He had only one responsibility left, but more important than all, the responsibility of being a father. When he returned to Boston, Tristan knew that things would not be easy. Emma still had a lot to deal with him, and her faith in him had been shaken, but he never gave up. He spent time with Lily, taking care of her little by little. He took her to the park, read her books every night, and attended all the medical checkups at the hospital. Every smile of Lily's made Tristan's heart melt, and he knew he had made the right decision. One late afternoon, as Tristan and Lily were sitting next to each other on a bench in the park, Lily asked him in a soft voice, "Will you stay here with me forever, Dad?" Tristan smiled, holding his daughter's hand tightly. "Yes, Lily. Dad will be here, forever, with you." Tristan's decision was irreversible. He had given up his career, fame, and fortune, but in return, he gained the love of his daughter, a love that nothing could exchange, and that was all he needed. Tristan decided to give up everything he had built in his career. He resigned from the company, donated all his shares to fund Emma's school and Lily's treatment. He knew this was the only way to atone for his past mistakes. When he announced his decision to his colleagues, Tristan received strong opposition, but he didn't care. He knew he was doing the right thing. Emma remained cold towards Tristan, but that didn't make Tristan give up on her and his daughter. He always tried to be present in Emma and Lily's lives in the most sincere way. It could be said that Tristan's presence was like a distant star, not too close, but always shining and allowing Emma to feel it. At first, Emma was very reluctant to accept Tristan. Every time he visited the hospital to help care for Lily, she always kept a somewhat distant attitude. She didn't want Tristan to influence her life anymore. However, fears about her child's health forced Emma to accept Tristan's help, especially in times of emergency. Tristan was no longer an arrogant and conceited man. He was now a man who knew how to listen, how to love without needing anything in return. He went to the hospital every day, helping Emma take care of Lily, from small things like changing diapers, feeding Lily milk, to big things like sitting with Emma overnight to wait for Lily after surgeries. Tristan not only helped materially, he also helped Emma take care of all the mental difficulties she faced during this time. During each evening at the hospital, Emma gradually began to realize that Tristan had changed. She saw in him a responsible father, a caring man, willing to invest emotionally without expecting anything back. Tristan was always there to encourage Emma when she was tired, discouraged, or even when he saw her occasionally frustrated. She began to notice the strong shoulders she could lean on when tired. Each imagined situation at the hospital was only a small part of life, but it became an important moment for Tristan to rebuild trust with Emma. He no longer demanded or pressured her to forgive him. Instead, he just did what he could to support Emma and help Lily get the best conditions. Gradually, Emma felt a change in her heart. Although she still couldn't completely forgive Tristan, she realized that his presence in her life not only helped Lily get better, but also helped her relieve some of the burden she had been carrying for the past 3 years. She began to open her heart a little, accepting Tristan's presence as part of their family life. Those days were a mixture of pride and regret, but Tristan felt that he was finally doing the right thing. He could see Lily laughing happily. Those moments helped him realize that love and family were more precious than anything he thought he had. Emma, although not yet fully opened, began to notice the change in Tristan, and it gradually created a new connection between them. One day, Lily suddenly experienced a serious health crisis. Everything happened so fast. Emma was sitting by her daughter's bed, reading a picture book about the wonders of the world, when Lily started having trouble breathing. Her breathing became more and more difficult. Her face started to turn pale. Emma panicked, immediately called the nurse, and within minutes, the room was full of people. The little girl's heart suddenly stopped beating for a few seconds. That moment seemed to freeze the whole space. Emma sobbed, screaming in despair. She felt like she was losing everything. Tristan stood at the end of the room. For a minute, he felt like he was about to collapse. But then suddenly he pulled himself together, rushed to hold Emma's hand, holding her tightly. "Lily will be fine, Emma. I promise," Tristan whispered, his voice full of determination, even though his heart was clenching with fear. The doctors and nurses quickly sprang into action. The defibrillator was brought in and everything started to move faster than the clock. Emma watched the doctor struggling for her daughter's life, a sense of helplessness rising within her. Tristan was right next to her, not leaving, even though he knew Emma probably didn't want him there. Everything suddenly blurred except for the only thing he could see: his daughter, Lily. After a long, suffocating period, the continuous beeping from the heart rate monitor started to return. The little girl's heart had started beating again. The whole room seemed to burst with relief. Emma collapsed, crying with joy and worry. Tristan still held her hand, and for the first time in years, he felt truly needed by Emma. "The heartbeat is stabilized, but her condition is still very serious," said Dr. Martinez, his voice tired but determined. "We need to perform a high-risk surgery right now, and it needs stem cell intervention." "Stem cells?" Emma looked at the doctor, her face paler. "Can we find a suitable source in such a short time?" Dr. Martinez looked at Tristan meaningly. "It's best to get it from her father. Mr. Matthews, you will have to undergo a procedure right now. Your cells can help Lily pull through." Emma looked at Tristan, her eyes filled with worry and hope. Tristan didn't hesitate. He nodded immediately. "I will do everything I can to save my daughter," Tristan said, his voice unwavering. He let go of Emma's hand and followed Dr. Martinez. He knew this surgery was not only to save Lily, but also his only chance to redeem his past mistakes. The surgery was a suffocating and agonizingly long one. Emma sat outside, in the empty waiting room of the hospital. She clasped her hands tightly together, both praying and feeling terrified. But somewhere in the bottom of her heart, she had a glimmer of hope that maybe everything would be okay. Tristan, after completing his stem cell extraction, returned to Emma's side. She was exhausted, her eyes red from crying, but she still looked at him with hopeful eyes. Tristan didn't say anything. He just sat beside her, and Emma rested her head on his shoulder, like their only rainbow in the storm. The surgery was successful. Dr. Martinez came out and announced that Lily had overcome the critical condition. Emma buried her face in Tristan's chest, and he hugged her tightly as a thank you. In that moment, Emma realized that Tristan had truly changed. He had sacrificed everything to save their daughter and to redeem his mistakes. "You really came back, Tristan," Emma whispered. "This effort, everything you did, I will never forget." Tristan looked into Emma's eyes. He felt a part of his heart being filled. "I did so much wrong, Emma, but all I want now is to fix it and do better. Can you forgive me?" Emma bit her lip, her eyes filled with pain. After all these years, the hurt and the betrayal, she had doubted forgiveness. But now, looking into his remorseful and loving eyes, she realized she still loved this man. She nodded, gently placing her hand on his cheek. "You have redeemed yourself. I will try one more time with you." As Lily was wheeled out of the emergency room, Emma and Tristan walked alongside her. They held hands, a promise to face any challenges in the future together. Lily gradually recovered, and their family life became simpler and more peaceful. The atmosphere in the house felt renewed, filled with love and forgiveness. Emma and Tristan sat together, watching Lily draw a picture after a day at school. She was still frail, still small, and full of hope. The clasp of Tristan and Emma's hands became a new promise. This future, this family, was a new beginning. They entered a new chapter, living not just to exist, but to learn, to love, and forgive. The future was restored, and they would face all challenges with courage, together. Finally, the family of Tristan, Emma, and Lily found happiness again. The turbulent days were gone, and now they could enjoy peaceful moments together. Tristan had paid the price for his mistakes, but he understood that what he had now, love and family, was the most precious thing, something that could not be exchanged for anything. They spent more time together, taking Lily for walks in the park, participating in school activities, and creating beautiful memories together. Tristan started to participate in events at Lily's school, becoming a father she could be proud of. Emma, despite still carrying emotional scars, also realized that Tristan had truly changed, and she gradually opened up to him more. In the evenings, they sat together at the dinner table, talking and laughing. They were no longer strangers, separated by hurt and misunderstanding, but a real family where everyone loved and cared for each other. The future held many challenges, but Tristan, Emma, and Lily were ready to face them all. They knew that as long as they had each other, they would overcome any difficulties. And above all, they had found what they had lost: trust, love, and true happiness. At 32, both still looked like heroes in cowboy hats, except for Tristan, who was a very sympathetic force who readily understood the mystic nature of the relationship.